I took a night shift at a local convenience store. The job was simple, and I needed the extra income. After a few months, I got used to the quiet, uneventful nights. That's when Ethan, a tall man with a shabby appearance, started showing up. He'd come in every night around 1 a.m., always buying just a can of beer. One night, he asked my name. I told him it was Mike, and he just kept repeating it, chuckling to himself as he walked out, already drinking his beer. Ethan never drove. He always walked away into the night. I wondered where he came from, but I never saw him buy anything other than beer. He became a regular, and some nights he'd be more intoxicated than others. Sometimes he just stared blankly at the shelves, not buying anything. Curious, I finally asked him about himself. He responded vaguely, mentioning that he had been cheated by life. His gaze seemed lost, and he quickly left that night. For the next few nights, Ethan didn't show up, which was unusual for him. The store felt eerier without his predictable visits. Then, during a particularly stormy night, Ethan walked in, soaked to the bone. He stood silently at the entrance, staring blankly ahead. He seemed deeply troubled, more so than usual. Suddenly, he whispered, "I need help," and stumbled towards the storage room at the back. I followed, concerned for his state. I found the storage room empty, but I heard a soft dripping sound. As I turned, Ethan emerged from the shadows, his eyes wild. He lunged at me, screaming threats. I managed to push him away and escape back to the store's front. I grabbed my coat and ran out to my car, calling 911 in a panic. The police arrived quickly, and we found Ethan hiding in the storage room, mumbling incoherently. They arrested him, and I was left shaken, unable to process what had just happened. A month later, I learned that Ethan, whose real name was Martin, had been involved in a violent crime on the same night he attacked me. The realization that I had narrowly escaped a potentially deadly encounter haunted me. That experience marked the end of my night shifts. As a young adult, I had a habit of late-night drives. It was a way to clear my head and enjoy some solitude. My routine was simple, a long drive followed by a stop at a quiet gas station. This particular night was no different. It was around 3 a.m., and the streets were empty, save for the occasional car. The calm of the night was something I cherished. After driving aimlessly for a while, I decided it was time to head back. I needed to refuel my car, so I stopped at a gas station near my place. It was usually deserted at this hour, which I preferred. As I was walking toward the station to pay, a tall figure in a dark coat crossed my path. He stopped and gave me a prolonged, unsettling stare. Confused, I asked if he needed something, but he remained silent, so I continued inside. After paying and picking up a snack, I walked back to my car, feeling a bit uneasy about the earlier encounter. I quickly started fueling up, my eyes scanning the area for the mysterious man, but he was nowhere in sight. With a full tank, I got back into my car and began the drive home. The roads were eerily quiet, almost too quiet, which added to my growing sense of unease. Suddenly, I heard a rustling sound from the back seat. My heart skipped a beat as I glanced in the rearview mirror, and to my horror, I saw the silhouette of a person sitting in the back. It was the same man from the gas station, his dark eyes glaring at me through the mirror. Panic set in instantly. I slammed on the brakes, the car screeching to a halt. I yelled at the top of my lungs for him to get out, my voice echoing in the still night. I flung my car door open and continued screaming for help, hoping to draw the attention of anyone nearby. The man, caught off guard by my reaction, scrambled out of the car. Lights flicked on in the nearby houses, and doors began to open. Neighbors, alarmed by my screams, started to emerge, trying to understand the commotion. The man, realizing he was attracting attention, quickly retreated, disappearing into the darkness of the night. Shaken, I explained to the concerned neighbors that I found a stranger hiding in my car. By now, the man was long gone, his intentions unknown but certainly sinister. The neighbors insisted on staying with me until I calmed down. I was grateful for their presence, which helped ease my nerves a bit. After ensuring the man was not lurking around, I thanked them and resumed my drive home, constantly checking my rearview mirror. That night changed my perspective on late-night drives. The fear and vulnerability I felt during those moments were overwhelming. It was a stark reminder of the dangers that can lurk in the most unexpected places. From then on, I made sure to always check my back seat before getting into my car, especially at night. In the early 1970s, in a small town near Denver, I was about 10 years old. My mother, a nurse, often worked late shifts, which meant we had early starts and long drives to her workplace. We would routinely stop for gas at a small, family-run service station on the outskirts of town. The station was quaint, offering full-service refueling and a tiny convenience store. On one particularly chilly morning before the sun had risen, we pulled into the station, expecting the usual warm greeting from the attendant. However, the station was eerily silent and seemingly unattended. The usual buzz of activity was conspicuously absent. My mother honked the horn a couple of times, but there was no response. We speculated about the attendant's absence. Perhaps he was unwell or had car troubles. It was unusual for the station to be deserted, especially at a time when it was typically bustling with early risers. I mentioned needing to use the restroom, but my mother, concerned about the odd situation, decided we should leave and find another station. As we drove off, an unsettling feeling lingered. A few days later, while reading the local newspaper, my mother gasped in horror. A small article reported a grisly discovery at the very station we frequented. The attendant, a kind middle-aged man known in the community, had been found deceased in the station's restroom, a victim of a brutal robbery gone wrong. The incident shook our small town. The robbery, it seemed, had netted only a small sum of money, but the cost was incomprehensibly high. The thought of what might have happened if we had stayed longer, or if I had ventured to the restroom, haunted me for years. After that day, we never returned to that station. It was a stark and frightening reminder of the fragility of life and the senselessness of violence. The event left an indelible mark on our small town and on my childhood memories.